Hello, everybody. Uh, I'm gonna wait for a few people to join this live stream if they may. So I'm gonna talk about, my trip to the Philippines. I'm not gonna talk about anything Dayton related on this live stream. This is only for trip to the Philippines. Question and answer session. So I'm gonna welcome those who just joined. Feel free to shoot me your questions about my trip. I am gonna start off. Okay, when I first went to the Philippines, how long was my trip in the planning stages for when I went to the Philippines? Well, I had talked with my girlfriend online for about a year or so, prior to me actually traveling there, and we have a good relationship. I mean, we talked at length for a long time. I mean, I knew she was real. I talked with her family a couple times online. I even had a couple people who I knew from over there meet her as a friend too. So I was never worried about, getting scammed, because, she was always upfront, honest with me, transparent with me. She still is, and is a great girl. So, we talked for about a year, before I had went over there. This I'm going to address several questions, during this video, and several things. But around, we had talked about me going there for several months, and around August of last year, I was able to pay down a couple things as I got some extra work and a few other things, and some other, money came my way, and some, good fortune, and I was able to pay off my phone, which is something that I wanted to do before I went over there, because otherwise I would have been going over there with a phone that could have been locked, potentially. So I was able to own my phone, and when I paid off my phone, it was in August, and I told her around September, so that I'm going to come more than likely at the end of the year, beginning of the year, which I did. The date that I flew out on was December 31st. It was New Year's Eve. I left Cincinnati. I transferred into New York at JFK. Initially, I didn't really want to fly on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, but it was one of those things. The prices of the flights were not very cheap the other day, so I, had to take what I could get, which, in all honesty, looking back, I mean, I didn't mind flying on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and that place, JFK, is a complete zoo. I mean, that's like when they say New York is a city that never sleeps. They ain't lying about New York, being the city that never sleeps. The flight that I took over there, it was about a 16-hour flight. It was on Philippine Airlines. Hello. Yeah, just shoot me any questions you guys have. If I miss it, if I overlook it, just ask them again, And the flight over the Philippines was about a 16-hour flight. I had uploaded. Thanks, Michael. Yeah, as far as being home goes, I am not as happy to be home as you guys would think I am, because I do miss being overseas. I miss the hospitality of the people, and just the attitudes of some of the people I've encountered here at home. I mean, I'm even more suspicious of people for a few different reasons that I'm not going to get into on this live stream. I will make another live stream, kind of talking about how I've adjusted to being at home since I've been home. But I am not as happy to be home as you guys think I am. I would rather be with her, and I'm going to get her back here, or I'm going to eventually find a way to move over there. But okay. getting back to the flight. I had left JFK. It was the flight left. It was on Philippine Airlines. It was 1:45 in the morning on New Year's Eve, January 1st. Well, the clock had already went past midnight, and we watched the ball, drop at the airport, from Times Square, and it was almost 2 hours into the new year when we got onto the airplane, Philippine Airlines, and the airplane was very comfortable. It was an exceptionally good aircraft, really good flight crew. The New York to Manila flight is a good option for a flight if you don't mind going into Manila, but some travelers I've talked to prefer to fly into Cebu or Cebu City's airport, or go into Clark, which is also Angeles City. So when I arrived in the Philippines, I definitely kind of knew what to expect. I definitely knew I was not going to have any cold weather or any snow there, because it's a tropical country. I think it was about 77 degrees, or 76, 78, 79 when I landed. When I landed at the airport over in Manila, it was about 7:20 in the morning. We had a really beautiful sunrise. I was only at the airport in Manila for maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours at most before I caught my connected flight to Davao City. So I only seen Manila just a little bit from the airport, and leaving the airport and coming there. And Manila, I can't really speak on Manila that much, but I know it's got the reputation of not being a very clean city. And you could kind of look and see the pollution from up high. And but I was only at the airport for 2 hours. Now, when I flew back, I didn't fly out of Manila. I flew out of Davao to Clark, which is in Angeles City, to the airport in South Korea, which is Incheon. Back to New York at JFK. That was on Asiana Airlines. That was on Asiana. So, when I went to the Philippines, my girlfriend, she picked me up at the airport along with a friend that I kind of introduced her to, because I wanted her to have a friend who's had some. There's one girl I knew who was a friend that I had talked with a little bit before. She had some international relationship experience, and I knew she could lean on her for some experience, and I knew that she was somebody that she could trust. And they're both the same age too, so there's enough in common there. And they've actually became pretty good friends during that time. My friend was going to date this other girl, but I don't know if it's going to happen now. But anyway, when I had arrived at the airport, and over in Davao, it was about 11:30 on January 2nd. The first thing I had noticed when I had got to Davao was just crazy intense heat. I mean, I said to myself that I know this place is going to be hot, but I'm like, my God, I mean, if this place is like this hot as it was when I had first stepped off the plane, I'm like, my God, I'm in trouble, which I would have survived the heat. But in the city of Davao, which Davao is not where I was at most of the trip. I was in Digos. I had only just passed through Davao a few times. If you guys look at my videos from Victoria Plaza and the bus ride going to and from Davao, I had to go to Victoria Plaza to go to the immigration office in the later part of January to extend my stay. So I got some videos of Davao, the multi-cab ride, the bus ride there at Victoria Plaza, walking around it a little bit. But when I had stepped off the airplane in Davao, the first thing I had noticed, which I know Manila is similar to this. I don't know if Davao is quite as dirty as Manila is when it comes to air quality. But the first thing that, after being in the Philippines for a month or so and passing through there, the big problem with Davao is, like Digos, where I was at, there's not as much traffic, and definitely in Governor Generoso over in Tibamban, that's the area that I uploaded one of my boat riding videos, and where he ate the live lizard in the Philippines, where he ate that live lizard. I mean, the heat and the humidity, didn't feel nearly as intense there as it did in Davao. And mainly the problem with Davao, which is much like Manila, there is just too many vehicles, there's just too much congestion, and it's just bumper to bumper traffic. Like, the heat and the intensity from the traffic is just very intense, and it makes it seem so much hotter than it actually is. I mean, and you could definitely feel it when you're in Davao, especially if you're there in the afternoon hours. If you're there in like the early part of the morning, like I was there in the early part of the morning when I had went to Victoria Plaza to extend my immigration stay, because the immigration office is right across the street from there. That was a pretty easy thing. It was a quick in and out within 40 to 45 minutes, about 30 to 45 minutes. As long as you're not wanted or a terrorist, they'll extend your stay. But yeah, I was staying with my fiance's, family, there. When I was there, some of the most wonderful people I have ever met in my life. The hospitality of the Filipino people is truly special. It is definitely unlike anything I have ever experienced here in the U.S. Definitely at home, anywhere. And I really grew to love the people there, and I love those people to death. The thing, I'll say this much, they don't make a whole lot of money in the Philippines. People say it's third world. I mean, I don't know if I would say it's a third world country. They're definitely a developing nation. There's definitely countries in much, worse shape than they are. But despite how poor they are very hospitable people. They'll do anything they can for you. Like, even as dirt poor as they are, they always love to offer you food, And sometimes I felt a little bit bad about taking it, but they always said, let's eat. They really want you to feel welcome, in their country and in their communities. And that kind of hospitality is something that I truly miss, and that's one reason probably why I'm not as happy to be home as you guys would think I am. But the hospitality of the people there is just truly special. I mean, I've never experienced, kinder people in my life, and so I am going to talk about some of the budget stuff. How much money do you need to go to the Philippines? Well, you could get a round trip ticket from anywhere from about $800 more than $1,300. You're wasting too much money. You could fly on airlines or Philippine Airlines for about that price and have a round trip ticket, without any problem. And if you don't have a family you're staying with, your lodging expenses whether it's in a hotel or a lodging house, it could be anywhere from $25 to $50 a night. So on a weekly average for your lodging, if you're not staying with a family, budget about $175 to no more than $300 at very most for a lodging house or a hotel room in the Philippines. As far as food prices go, you could definitely feed yourself and the family that you're staying with at a very cheap price. Sack of rice about $20. The cost of meat is a little high there. It's especially higher for them, especially and because it's about for 2 pounds of meat, it's about $4 or about 200 pesos. And their salaries don't pay nothing. But as far as how much you need to spend on food wise. Well, if you're eating out, 2 or 3 times a day, you could get by on like $4 to $10. Unless you're going to like really fancy restaurants, there's plenty of cafes that are pretty affordable. And to do, kind of touristy things there, you know, you could always get somebody. Hold on, go ahead and repost that question again. Sorry, I missed that question, but go ahead and hopefully it'll pop up again. I'll hopefully see it. Sorry, it just flashed in front of the screen. I'll hopefully get it to pop back up in a second. What was the strangest thing I ate? Geez. You know what? Probably although I love the taste of it, I've never had squid before. So that was definitely interesting. I mean, some people about octopus say like, ugh. I'm like, the octopus, the squid actually tasted pretty good. And they definitely eat some stuff that's different. Like I even had the face of the pig, which I had bought that at the butcher shop. That's real good and tender. But getting back to the budget on food wise, you could get by for anywhere from $4 to no more than $10 a day food wise if you're eating out. Unless you're going to like real fancy restaurants. Even at real fancy restaurants, it's not going to cost any more than maybe $8 to $12 at most. So while on the topic of budget, to do touristy things there, to see like Mount Apo, or to go to like Samo Island, or to go to some of the nice touristy stuff, if you bring a couple people with you, you could do it for about $50 to $100 a day. That includes the gas, some of the entrance fees. It depends on how expensive it is, but if you budget at least $300 to $500 a week, you don't need to spend any more than $500 a week on touristy things. That is more than enough to keep you plenty occupied and seeing lots of beautiful and nice things and nice beaches and other sights in the Philippines. So on average, you can budget anywhere from $400 to $800 and get by in the Philippines on a weekly budget just fine. Which, the cost of everything as a foreigner there is so cheap. Now on them it's not cheap because their salaries, they don't even make $10 a day. So you could go there for 2 weeks and only spend $1,600, which if you go to like various parts of the Caribbean or Florida, you're easily going to spend that just in lodging alone or a hotel room alone. So you could definitely make your money stretch pretty good there, because like cigarettes there, for example, are like only like $2 a pack, like $1.60 to $2. Beer, Red Horse or San Miguel for about $2 for a good sized bottle. Rum, Anhio or Tandoy for about $1 too. So I mean that's the low cost of living as a foreigner there is one reason why there's interest, and why there's people like Americans, British, Canadians, and other Europeans that are moving to countries like the Philippines to live, and also Thailand and Malaysia, places like that, because your money goes significantly farther. For those who are just joined in, feel free to ask any questions about my trip to the Philippines. And again, I am not going to answer any Dayton related questions about this chat. Chat is just about the Philippines. If you missed anything, you can watch it from the beginning. But also, getting back to the cost of things, the things I noticed there that were definitely not cheaper than here, that were really expensive on them. The cost of gas, I mean, they use the metric system. Just for a liter of gas is like 80 cents, and 4 liters make a gallon. So it's about $3 a gallon. Gas. I mean, gas is not cheap over in that part of the world. And again, they don't even make 10 US dollars a day in most jobs over there. So just to even be able to afford your own vehicle, besides just a motorcycle, is considered a luxury in that part of the world. And the cost of meat is definitely not, cheap either. For a kilo of pork or chicken, you're talking about $3 to $5. I mean, depending on the meat and the quality. So that's definitely not cheap over there. And the one thing that I didn't realize until going there either, that's also very expensive, that I noticed that's very expensive. The cost of dairy products, especially milk in that part of the world, is not cheap either. And I've been told this by people that have been to Hawaii, that milk there is expensive there as well. Because I guess also that when you go to tropical countries, there's too much heat and humidity for dairy cows to be able to survive and thrive there. So it's hard for them to have dairy cows there, because most of the cows that are in that part of the world, they're beef cattle cows. They're much like the cows you find in Texas and Oklahoma. Beef cattle cows can survive the heat a lot better than dairy cows. And I found out that most of the milk that they import into countries like the Philippines, it comes from like the US, New Zealand, China, and Switzerland. Places that obviously get cold enough for a long enough period of time to have, dairy, products like, milk, shipped in there. And a couple other things I was surprised, when I had, some of the older houses, the one thing I've seen is some of the older houses there that definitely would not be in none of the newer, nicer homes there. And it definitely is a reflection on how some of the people live there. But a lot of the older homes there have fuse boxes instead of a regular electrical panel and circuit breakers. So they don't have all the fancy, appliances that, that the regular modern road has. Well, heck, I mean, even Europe, they're not as fancy as the US and Canada when it comes to in-home appliances, but their electricity is not set up to have a bunch of appliances. Like there, you just have like a little campfire burner to cook with, butane fuel. That does most of their cooking. To have a stove there is definitely considered a luxury in that part of the world. To have a luxury, because that's definitely a luxury, because one, the electricity over there is not cheap, and the houses, unless it's a newer house, it's going to be a fuse box instead of a regular electrical panel. Now obviously a fuse box is not going to be allowed in today's electrical codes over there, because you obviously need to have breakers, to be able to run things like, your air conditioning and so on. And, that's another thing, even air conditioning over there is a luxury. Well, a lot of people have it in their windows. A lot of people don't really turn it on a whole lot because it's not cheap to run it there. And, as far as, if you're staying with a family, one thing you can do to compensate the family besides just buying food, offer to pay, the electric bill and the water bill, which in our dollars is only going to be like maybe $40 to $75 for both. The electric is about $40 to $60, which in their dollars is not cheap, because they only make about 500 pesos a day, which is about 10 US dollars. And if you're working 6 days a week and that's all you're making, I mean, they're only at maybe like, 200 to about 180 to no more than $300 a month in US dollars at most if they're lucky. Money is extremely hard to make in a place like the Philippines. They work very long hours for very, very little money. I mean, I love the people there, but I was heartbroken to see how hard they have to work for very little, money. And these are some of the most generous people I have ever, encountered in my life. But yeah, and also another thing I'm going to address too is the internet. And that's a major reason why I was not able to upload but a couple videos when I was there. Out of all the Asian countries, the Philippines has the slowest internet. So don't go to the Philippines expecting to be able to hop on Wi-Fi anywhere like you can where I'm at the casino, or to be able to find a library, or at the or McDonald's or whatever, where you could hop on to Wi-Fi. Because Wi-Fi there, about the only way to get Wi-Fi is if you're staying with a family and they let you hop on it. And even then, unless it's at least 5 to 10 megabytes per second on the upload, you're not going to be able to upload videos. And it would just be way too slow. But I already knew that the internet was a hot mess there before I had went there, because I had spoke with several people, and yeah, the internet in that part of the world is not good. But you go to Singapore or Japan or South Korea, they have super fast internet. I remember the internet at the airport in South Korea was blazing fast. Now the internet at the airport in Davao on the smart network was very fast. I was able to upload a few videos as I was, leaving the country. But yeah, like, another thing, too, with the internet, like, you have two cell phone providers there. You got Smart and you have Globe. Smart is a little bit faster than Globe, but the problem is, like, they have better data packages. Smart is a little bit faster than Globe, but the problem is if you go to like a rural area, like I was at in Governor Generoso, the signal just absolutely sucks. There's only two providers, cell phone providers there. You got Sun too, but that's tied into Smart. Now who should you go with? Well, if you're going to be going into a rural area, I would definitely have a Globe SIM card. If you're going to be staying in a more populated area, you could get by with Smart, but it doesn't hurt to have two SIM cards to have a Globe and a Smart SIM card. But definitely where I was at in Governor Generoso, where the man ate the live lizard, you definitely got to have Globe there, because that area was pretty rural, and just the Smart Sun network just did not work very well in that part of the Philippines, and it was very hard to get any kind of internet, to get any kind of cell phone network connection there. Yeah, the cell phone networks there, how it works in that part of the world, you buy data, for your cell phone. They have what they call free Facebook too, which is basically like where you get free data, where you get to view like profile pictures, comment on posts, and things like that, and statuses. But you have to have data or Wi-Fi to be able to use to be able to view pictures. Like for example, on the Smart Network, the one thing I really like with the Smart Network, they give you like an hour of YouTube, with your data package, depending on the one you get every day. So a 1 hour daily allowance of YouTube, especially from somebody that likes to view a lot of YouTube videos. Obviously, I'm a creator myself, so that was always nice to to have that. But yeah, but don't go to a country like the Philippines and expect to have good internet there, because Wi-Fi there is very scarce, public Wi-Fi. And the thing is, too, and to get any kind of Wi-Fi there at home is far beyond what the average family could afford. The internet there is not that good, and just to even get a good home internet connection, the average family would not be able to afford it, due to their salaries just being so low. And I definitely, whoever wants to shoot me some questions, during this live chat, I'm going to continue it for a little bit. There's one thing I do want to address, and I think, and since I've came home again, I'm not going to talk about home. I'm not going to talk about anything Dayton related on this live stream. But some people have this perception that they're going to get scammed by a foreigner. I can tell you something, people. The Filipino people are not out there scamming you. Well, there is a few that may try and scam you here and there, but that's everywhere you go, okay? The truth is, you are more likely... Yes, I did dread coming back. The truth be known, you are much more likely to get asked by an American woman for money than you are a Filipino or the average foreign woman, okay? And but a lot of people just don't like to admit that or talk about that. But I'm going to tell you right now, I have been asked by more American women for money than I ever have any foreign woman for money. And as far as, when it's okay to send money, well, that was my girlfriend, for example. Me and her talked for a really long time. She's never asked me for anything. I've sent her money out of the goodness of my heart on my own free will. When I've sent her money, it's been because I know she has a need. I mean, she's never had to ask me for it or anything. I've sent it to her. She's a great girl. She's the type that wants me to save money. That's a sign of a good woman. When you have a woman that wants you to save your money instead of blow it on them, you got a good woman. Because they want you to make sure that you're responsible with your money, which, I am for the most part. As far as when it's a good time to send money to a foreigner, listen, we make enough money here where don't get butthurt if you lose $20 or $40. Would I move there and work there? Well, I would like to move there, but the problem is it's very hard to get work there. The people there just don't make enough money, and about the only way to work there legally is through a U.S. company. Yes, George, most people speak English there. It's a second language, okay? I am going to address the thing about the working there more in a second, but I'm going to get back to the question about the English. Don't expect everybody there to have perfect English. It is a second language. For example, if you're a well-educated Filipino, if you're in a skilled profession like a doctor, nurse, or veterinarian, or you work at a call center, they have perfect English. But don't expect every Filipino there to have, good English. I mean, for the most part, especially if they've been out of school for a really long time, if they're in a higher education, they're having to learn a skilled profession, you can best be assured they're going to have good English, especially if it's a medical profession, because they want their young ladies to be able to go abroad and be nurses whether it's in the U.S., Canada, or Europe, if they can. So they are going to make sure they have good English. But if you're not that well educated, and if your job doesn't require it, your English might not be that good over there. But yeah, I mean, it's not hard to find people that speak English there. And if they don't have that good of English, there's always somebody willing to translate from the local dialect, which is Bisaya, and also, Tagalog, But if you stay there for an extended period of time, try and learn a little bit of the local dialect. Definitely try to endear yourself to the foreigners. It's not hard. As far as, moving there, would I like to move there? Yes. But it's one of those places that, it's the type of place that you would generally go to and retire to. Unless you have some kind of lottery winnings before you're the age of 65, where you get like $50,000 or $100,000 a year, get some kind of scratch off price for like 20 years or whatever. It's hard to survive there because the salaries are so low, and in all honesty, they would tell you that you're crazy for wanting to try and work there when you can go back to the US, Canada, or Europe or Australia to work, to work there, because they just don't make enough money. There is some people, when I was going over there, when I was in Manila, well, when I was flying over there, I actually met a guy who actually worked for a US software company over in Manila. Lucky him. How lucky could he have been? I mean, that guy's definitely making money hand over fist. If he's living in the Philippines and as low as the cost of living is to him, and he's being paid by a U.S. company, you definitely know he's making some nice bank and he's saving some money. I definitely wish I could be that lucky to go to be able to do that. As far as, if I were to move to the Philippines, which I wouldn't mind being able to do that, I would definitely like to at least move there part-time. I don't know about full-time. I am open to living there full-time. But again, the problem is, you have to have like some kind of Social Security, pension, or retirement as a foreigner there. And if you own a business there, it has to be like in your wife's name or her family, because foreigners are not allowed to actually own businesses there, so it's got to be in the name of the naturalized Filipino, person, the citizen. And I was definitely very, coming, I was, I had the time of my life, when I was in the Philippines. For once, I had felt truly at peace, not having the worries of being at home. I just felt totally at peace in a foreign land and in a place that I had really grown to love. I mean, if you guys watched that one video, and I try not to show my emotional side very often, but I cracked when I was going to the airport when I knew that it was time to leave. I definitely was getting a little tearful there, and because I hated to leave people that I had really grown to love, and I love the people there, the generousness of the people, just the hospitality there, and I just never experienced that kind of hospitality and that kind of kindness in the U.S. ever, and I really honestly hated to leave that. But as far as, if now I had showed a few different locations and videos, Digos, a little bit of Hagonoy, Governor Generoso. Yeah, there is a little bit of crime there, but the crime there is much lower than it is in most parts of the modern world. It's a very safe country. I mean, there's a little bit of drugs there, but no, Joe, that's, no, she ain't going to be able to come back for a while. I've got to get her a visa. And of course, with our immigration laws, that's going to take a while to get her back. I don't know when that's going to be yet. Of course, you have to find the right organization and the right lawyer to help you streamline, the process. But she'll come back with me eventually, but that's going to take a while, though, before that can happen. But, the crime and drugs there, there's a little bit of drugs there. The crime is, most of the crime that I talking to people there is more theft, related crimes. I mean, they really don't have a whole lot of violent crime. Like, they're not out there to rob you and things like that. I mean, they want to endear themselves to you because they're very hospitable people there. I did notice a couple things I was told before I went there, that people there will try and steal from you, but the difference between theft in like the US and in a country like the Philippines, they steal there out of desperation and because of lack of opportunity. Here in the US, we steal out of greed. Like over there, as I mentioned, it is so hard for them to make money. It's not even funny. When you don't even make 10 US dollars a day and people are just not being given a fair shake at making a fair salary, that's what causes them to steal, if anything else, versus us, you know, here, we can make as much money as we want as Americans. And over there, money is so hard to come by over there. But as far as like if you're gonna, you know, rent a place to live over there, or if buy a house, like, well, I'll just say this much: out of all the areas I visited there, if I was able to pick one location to own a house, I would definitely like it to be in Governor Generoso, where my friend Alfredo is at. I loved his little village in Governor Generoso. It's about only a 200-yard walk from the beach. It's a nice, quiet little smaller area. If I move overseas, I have no desire to ever live in a major city if I live overseas. Now, I wouldn't mind like visiting Davao. I mean, Digos, I could tolerate living there. There's about 150,000 people, but the pollution's not that bad at Digos, unlike Davao. I'm not saying Davao is not a nice town, but I just would rather be living someplace where I know the air is much cleaner, where I'm not having to breathe extra heat, you know, from the vehicles, you know, constantly. And you know, you can, as far as, you know, buying property there, you can buy a nice 3 or 4 bedroom house that's built at a pretty good quality on American dollars for anywhere from about 40 to 80,000, for about 40 to 100,000 US dollars there. You can have a nice tropical house there at a cheap price in foreign dollars, and in our money, that's not that much. Also, you can rent a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom apartment for about 50 to 100 US dollars a month. You could rent a high-rise, I think, for a little bit more money than that if you want to live in a high-rise. I'm not sure how much a high-rise apartment costs over there, but you know, the cost of stuff as a foreigner there is definitely it's definitely cheaper on us than it is on them, because obviously, and as I talked about earlier in this video, you know, the cost of gas, you know, electricity and things like milk and meat is not cheap on them. I mean, they pay about the same price as we do on gas, and they pay about the same prices that we do on gas, which in their dollars, that doesn't go very far because of, you know, their salaries being so low over there. Address in this video about the, you know, trip. How long was I there? I was there about 6 weeks. Towards the end of January, on the videos that I went to Davao to file my visa extension, when I got the videos from Victoria Plaza and the multi-cab ride there, and a little bit walking around Victoria Plaza, that's when I filed my extension. I did that on January 23rd, about 22 days after I had arrived. Now, the visa process is really easy there. As long as you're not wanted or a terrorist, you could stay up to 5 months or a year before you had to fly out and fly back in. Like the first month, you know, it's only like 60 US dollars to extend. The second extension is like the second extension is only about is only about is only about five is only about $180 for 3 months. I'm going to show you guys something here. Oh, thank you, Michael. Well, there's plenty of videos to enjoy for a while. Definitely, please share those videos as much as you possible, guys. If you're watching this, please share the video of the Filipino man eating the live lizard in the Philippines and Governor Generoso here in T-Bamban. That's a video of mine that I really would like for it to go viral and to take off. I'm going to show you guys my passport here. I was talking about the immigration office in Davao, okay? There's when I arrived on January 2nd. So my first, yeah, please share that video of the man eating the live lizard. And also share my videos of them working with the livestock too. You know, of them wrestling with the pigs. Because videos like that can go over really popular on YouTube. Also, you know, share the boat riding videos too. Because there's some really beautiful areas. Just showing you guys my passport here. Of my stamp here when I arrived in the Philippines, okay? But break this down what this means, okay? Philippines NAIA, that's the airport in Manila. I arrived on January 2nd, okay? My stay was good till February 1st. So I had till February 1st to extend my stay. Here is the here's the stamp right here. When I was in Davao, this was only $60, and it only took about 45 minutes to process it. I was one of the first people in the line with my $60. And as long as you're not wanted, or a terrorist, they'll extend your stay. The DVO, that stands for Davao, which is the immigration office, which is on the island of Mindanao. That's where you extend your stay if you're in that part of the Philippines. And 23 January 19 is where you that's the date that I got my stay that I had my stay extended, and it was valid until March 2nd. So they added 30 or 31 days on top of the February 1st that I had till. And then there's my exit stamp. DMIA. I'm not sure what that stands for, but the airport I flew out of was Clark in the Philippines. So that's my stay right there when I was in the Philippines, showing my arrival, when I went to the immigration office, and when I left. And so yeah, I mean, the process of getting my visa extended in the Philippines was super easy. Like I said, as long as you're not wanted or a terrorist. You know, for those that are just joining, I'm talking about my trip to the Philippines. I know a couple of you commented that you just barely scratched the surface on my trip to the Philippines. Yeah, I had about 250 videos to upload, and it was so hard to upload videos there because the internet there is not very good, and it's very hard to find any kind of good internet there. Now, when I was in Davao and when I was at the airport in Clark, which is in Angeles City, they pronounce it differently than Los Angeles. It's Angeles or Angeles City, and the smart Wi-Fi there is pretty fast. I was able to upload a whole bunch of videos at the airport in South Korea too. It was such a monumental task to upload all of these videos. I mean, I spent probably close to 28 to 40 hours just uploading videos, just unearthing all the footage that I had to upload. I mean, I had well over 200 gigabytes of footage, and I had to make sure to label, everything. And for those that want to know the details of when I first went there, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I had arrived there on January 2nd, and I left the country on New Year's Eve, January 1st. You guys can watch from the beginning as I talked at length about that. But I was based in Digos for, most of the trip, because that's where my, girlfriend's family, lives at. And when I left there on February 18th to come back home, when I came back to the house, when I came back home, yeah, hey, what's up, Louie? Yeah, I see you're in here too. Yeah, I'm just doing this live stream here, talking about my trip to the Philippines. Anybody feel free to, to ask any questions that you may, about this, coming back. As I said, I'm not going to talk about, Dayton on this trip, but coming back was definitely bittersweet. I didn't want to leave. If I could find a way to at least live there part-time out of the year, I will, but I just don't know how I would pull that off unless I were to just have just regular Social Security, or if I were to win some lottery money where I could retire early and, move over there. What did I not like about my trip? Well, the main thing is, the stuff that I didn't like was not really, my fault per se. I didn't like seeing really good-hearted people be underpaid for their work. That was the thing that was probably the most heartbreaking thing, seeing good, hard-working people just not get a fair salary. I mean, the difference between rich and poor in a place like that compared to the U.S., it is like 50 times wider than it is. I mean, what I didn't like when I was there, well, obviously, it's hard to make any extra money over there. It's hard to be able to make any extra money there, because as a foreigner, you're not really allowed to work there. So, your earning potential there is very limited. So some of the work I had back home, like landscape and other things, I didn't have when I was there. And my YouTube page really wasn't doing that well on the revenue side for a few months there. I mean, I don't make that much money on my YouTube page to begin with, but I really wasn't rolling in no money on that side of things. So yeah, those are the things I didn't like. As far as what else I didn't like, I mean, I'm not surprised, because it is a tropical country. The mosquitoes are hell there. Don't go to a tropical country expecting to not get bit by mosquitoes. You will get eaten alive by mosquitoes. The mosquitoes there are hell in a tropical country. So, as far as what you need to have, like, your wardrobe, goes, don't wear a whole lot of cotton shirts. Buy those, like, buy a lot of synthetic shirts. Like, if you buy, like, the Russell Athletic, synthetic shirts, the kind that dry easier in a tropical climate, it's definitely a lot easier to wear. The cotton kind of sticks like glue to your body. So, definitely synthetic, shirts are a lot better to wear in a tropical climate. Regular socks, I often wore a lot of sandals when I was there, so I didn't have to often wear socks. The regular socks you have at home just do just as good. And, just regular, shoes that you would wear at the house. Don't go there expecting to wear sandals everywhere you go, because sometimes it gets raining and you need something to keep your feet dry. And as far as the average temperature when I was there, it was about 85 degrees. If you go there in like December and January and February, which are the best months to go there weather-wise, And that's also when you get the most celebrations, especially if you go there around Christmas time. I came after Christmas. I would have liked to have came at Christmas time, but the ticket prices were too high. And, you know, the, yeah, the average temperature was about 85 degrees, which the temperatures in December, January, February are actually the coolest there. And like April and May is actually considered the absolute most miserable months there when it comes to the heat. But however, it still is during the dry season. So if you can tolerate, yeah, Dan, yeah, you're right, no miserable winters there. But you have other dangers there like earthquakes and tropical storms and typhoons. Now, the area that I was in doesn't get hit that much by tropical storms and typhoons. I mean, earthquakes, I mean, if your building is built strongly enough, that's not really all that scary. Most of the typhoons and tropical storms that hit there in the Philippines are north of where I was at, like around Cebu, sometimes around Manila. The central and northern part of the country gets hit a lot more than the southern part of the country, like where I was at. Yeah, the area I was, the Davao Gulf. Now, sometimes you do get a tsunami or a little earthquake, but you know, that's just part of tropical, you know, living. And because the Philippines, they're in what they call the Pacific, you know, Ring of Fire. You know, that's, I guess, where seismic activity or whatever, where they get all those tremors beneath the ocean and the earth, you know, what they call the Pacific, you know, Ring of Fire and so on. And I mean, you know, the thing with the weather too, you know, if you're away from a major city, the weather is much more pleasant because, like I said, I was talking about earlier when I was in Davao, that all the heat from all the vehicles, bumper to bumper traffic, which I know Manila is much the same way. It makes it really hotter than hell with all the vehicles there. I was glad that when I got to Digos that it wasn't that damn hot like it was in Davao. But like I said, most of it in Davao is just from just too many vehicles, too many emissions, and so on. That's because I know Manila doesn't have the best reputation either when it comes to air quality, which I think Davao is probably not far from there. You know, also, that's also another thing I had noticed too, you know, because it's all islands, you know, in the Philippines, they don't got the room to have like a bunch of highway, you know, bypass routes to go around the city like we do. Like here in the U.S., you know, we got plenty of room to move around where we could build plenty of bypass routes to be able to get around. Like on a tropical island, you're much more constricted as far as the space they could use. I mean, here, because it's all interconnected here in the States, we got a lot more room to move around in regards to traffic patterns. But yeah, trying to get through Davao, I mean, it could take up to an hour. It could take up to an hour and a half just to get through all the traffic. It is just insane. I was watching this one video. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. The guy's from Utah. I might post a link to one of his videos where his friend was talking about. He actually does his videos that are actually in also they're in Bisaya, which is the local language in the Philippines. The first language, Bisaya, and also, you know, Tagalog, you know, too. And he talked about the difference between driving in the Philippines as, you know, motorcycle riding from the Philippines as opposed to in the U.S. That basically he said that it's a free-for-all, you know, the driving and the motorcycle riding, which outside of, you know, only a few very major cities there actually have traffic lights. That's something that does need to change there, because that's one thing I do worry about, was that they do have a lot of traffic accidents, because a lot of places there just don't have traffic lights. In Davao they do. I think in Jansan they have. I know in Manila they do, and in Cebu City. So hopefully they modernize and get traffic lights, you know, where they need to. But he basically described that, yeah, the traffic there driving is a free-for-all. You can pretty much drive as fast as you want. Just make sure you don't get hurt or get injured there. But it's basically a free-for-all. If there is speed limit signs, I don't think they're very rarely would be ever enforced. And one thing I had noticed, yeah, a lot of it is like free-for-all driving. Yeah, because there's just not that many laws to observe there as far as that goes, Dan. But getting back to one thing I noticed, I'm not sure with your guys' experience going to tropical countries. I was told there, you know, I had noticed that almost all their roads there are built out of concrete. And it was explained to me that asphalt in a tropical country, it just would wash away. I guess that makes sense to me, that I guess that the asphalt just could not hold up to the heat, that it would, you know, probably get melted in the tar. And maybe with earthquakes too, maybe it's more prone to crack than cement. But yeah, almost all their roads are built out of cement and concrete there, because their roads just can't hold up to their asphalt. Yeah, it just gets washed away. I'm not sure the experience you guys have with that, with going to other tropical countries. I don't know if you guys could comment on that, if you guys found that to be true in other tropical countries where they mainly use cement and concrete. Same thing for their roads. You know, the biggest hazard, which that one guy from Utah, his friend talked about this in a video. I will post some links to some of the videos that they done, but if you guys are watching this, type in driving in the Philippines versus driving in America, you'll see the video should pop up right there. The guy's name begins with a B or something. He's like a guy with blonde, long hair. And he's talked about, you know, that it's just, you know, free for all driving there. And, you know, the big hazard he mentioned that with driving there too is also the stray dogs. I mean, my God, when I was there, I had never seen so many stray dogs in my life. There is just stray after stray after stray, because obviously it's a poor country. So, you know, you're going to have an awful lot of stray dogs in a place like the Philippines. The dogs will run out in front of you. I mean, and so on. And they just, I mean, the way the dogs run out there, it's kind of a free-for-all like the traffic is. Obviously, too, you know, you have a lot more different kinds of, you know, traffic to deal with there, because you got a ton of motorcycles there. You got the tricycles. You got the multi-cabs, you got regular vehicles, you got buses. So you have a lot more, you know, vehicles, you know, combined in one place, and a variety than what you do here in the States. Versus in the States, it's kind of like just, you know, semis, a few regular cars, and maybe some buses. And there's, you know, a few motorcycles, but there's just much more diverse range of vehicles, you know, in the Philippines. And it could definitely be a hazard. I mean, so definitely, you know, it's also, I was mentioning the dogs, you know, the daylight there. Daylight is about, if you go there in the wintertime, they're 13 hours ahead of us in the U.S. time. So like right now, they're 12 hours ahead of us net right now, since we went to daylight savings. So it's like 9 a.m. there in the Philippines. But when I was there, it would have been like 10 a.m. It would have been like 10 a.m. right now, because that 13-hour difference, because of the, you know, not being on regular time in the Philippines. I mean, what I was gonna say too, you know, I'm gonna talk about, you know, like, you know, the daylight hours, like I said, are about from 5:30 to about 6 p.m. every day. And I've heard that in like the April, May, and I think it is June, it's from I think like 4 a.m. to about 6 p.m. So you gain about an hour and a half, 2 hours of daylight. I think at this time of year. There's something else I'm going to address. It's going to, come back. Oh, as far as like, something that probably a lot of Westerners probably aren't used to, that you got to get used to there. The roosters definitely tell you it's time to rise and shine in a country like the Philippines. The roosters definitely start crowing every morning about 5:30 in the morning. So if you don't like roosters, my best bet is to get you a good pair of earplugs, or probably sleep with some music on. If you're the type that can sleep better with, music on, and or get some good earplugs, because the roosters, they crow every morning at 5:30 in the morning. When it's time, or 5 in the morning, when it's time to rise and shine, they let everybody know, it's time to start the day and, get going, like I was talking about the stray dogs a few minutes ago. The dogs do bark a lot at night and there too. So if you probably don't like a lot of barking dogs, Dan, I'm not sure if the roosters, just crow every morning there at 5:30 in the morning there, or if people are more prone to shoot them in Texas. But what I was saying, like the dogs, I mean, some of the dogs can bark all night there, but there's just so many stray dogs there where a lot of the dogs there are just, barking at each other, constantly, also, I'm going to address this too. There's many things I'm addressing during this live stream, obviously, but, here, back home, obviously in a place like Ohio, I've never been to an ocean, until I went to the Philippines. I really loved, being able to swim in the ocean. You could swim in the ocean anytime if you're there. And it just felt so great just to have that, being able to swim in the ocean, something that I never got to do at home. Having an ocean is really nice to have, being able to swim in the ocean. Obviously, the ocean, there's certain things that, looking back on things, like I'm glad I don't have to worry about the dangers of tsunamis, earthquakes, and tropical storms here in Ohio. But at the same time, would I be willing to trade it? Would I take a little bit of danger there to have an ocean every day that I could swim in? Yeah. But at the same time, I'm glad I don't have to worry about, earthquakes and tsunamis and typhoons like where I live at, That's the unfortunate danger of living in a tropical country. But, but if you go there, yeah, that's just, yeah, Joe, you mentioned something about only living 10 minutes from the beach and have only had, I think, water or something like 20 feet from you. I'll have to see that comment again. Sometimes the comments disappear pretty fast, guys. I don't always get to. Oh, you said you've only had your feet in water. Maybe you've only had water in your feet, maybe 10 times in 20 years, and you never go to the beach. Wow, that's amazing. As far as, like some of the beaches in the Philippines, a big problem that the beaches in the Philippines have is because they don't really have proper trash pickup there in many places. A lot of the beaches do have litter, which is sad there because, and so yeah, a lot of the beaches do have problems with litter there because they just don't have proper trash pickup. They expect people to burn their trash there. Well, they don't have the EPA like we do here to meddle in things, but that's a whole nother subject for another video. I'm not going to get into the EPA in this video, but I could see where it would be beneficial in a place like the Philippines, though. I mean, obviously, but yeah, I mean, it's. I love the ocean, but at the same time, I'm glad, like where I live at, that I don't have to deal with the dangers that come along with it. But I would totally love to live near the ocean. But it's one of those things, take it or leave it. Because I think if you talk with most people that are from a foreign country that live near the ocean, that live here, they're probably glad that living in a place like this, they don't have to deal with those dangers that they once did, you know. But I'm going to address a few other, things too, shoot me, some questions here. Obviously, leaving the country too, was definitely, I left on February 18th. It was about 30 hours, total travel time. I left on February 18th. I flew from Davao to Clark, which is in, Angeles, or, Angeles City, however the heck you pronounce it. And I left Davao the flight was about 30 minutes late leaving, but I had about a 3-hour layover, so I wasn't too worried about it. It was about 20-30 minutes late leaving. I got to Clark about 10 p.m. Local time there for my flight to Incheon to South Korea. And I had about a 3-hour layover. I think it was about a 3.5 hour layover. It was almost a 2-hour flight, and I left when I officially left the Philippines. No, Rico, I was visiting my girlfriend, my fiance over there. I've already discussed some of that in a video. If after the live stream ends, watch the video from the beginning. Did it make me appreciate Ohio more? Not as much. I feel definitely very indifferent on that subject. I'm not gonna, as I said, I'm not gonna address Ohio or anything Dayton related. I will make another video in the coming days where I'll talk about how I feel coming back home. But I'm not as happy to be home as you guys think I am. I'll just say that much. I definitely love and miss the hospitality over there. But getting back to when I was leaving, it was officially February 19th over there after I had left Davao and I arrived in over in Angeles City. Rico, I'm not going to address Dayton in this video, so we'll save that for the next time. But I'm not going to talk about Dayton. This is about my trip to the Philippines. But But when I arrived at the airport, the water there, I don't know if it was safe to drink, but most people just drink bottled water there, so they obviously don't feel like it was safe to drink. They just drink bottled water there. And but when I had got to Clark, which is in Angeles City, which is about an hour north of Manila or an hour west of Manila or so on, and it was about 10 o'clock. And if you guys know, I got those videos, some of those in the last 30 or 40 videos where I made videos from the airport in Davao going to Angeles City to Clark, then to Incheon, then back to New York. I had about a 3.5 hour layover. It was still February 18th, and when I left on February 19th, I was flying out from Clark in Angeles City to Seoul, South Korea. I had about a 3-hour layover there, there in Seoul, South Korea. And it really dawned on me more than ever that leaving the Philippines, that my trip there was over with. But I tell you though, I'll talk about, Clark. I'll talk about, the airport and, in Seoul in a few minutes. But I tell you, when I had left Davao, I was just incredibly sad. Because I had knew that, my trip, or with at that point in time. And my girlfriend, she's just said, Mark, it's okay. You'll come back. And yes, I will get to come back. When will I go back? Possibly in December, as long as I don't have any setbacks. That's the current plan, is to go back for Christmas. Me and her met on Facebook, Rico. I didn't meet her on any dating websites. I just found her on Facebook, and I said, this is a really nice looking girl. I'd like to get to know all. As I mentioned, I talked a little bit about how me and her met at the beginning of this live stream, so you can watch that from the beginning. But when I was in, leaving the airport in Davao, I was just incredibly sad because I had really grown to love the people there and the hospitality, and I had just truly felt at, peace, there. And it just dawned on me, I just could not hide my sadness, for the next several days after I left there. But it really hit me when I left, Davao, the island of Mindanao, where I was at in the southern Philippines for about 6 weeks. And, the joy that I had felt when I was there in the hospitality, it was just truly unlike anything I've ever gotten to experience in my life before. And I really was heartbroken to have to, leave that. And so, yeah, they are. I mean, and Enrico, as I mentioned earlier, people that are dumb enough to ask, people that are dumb enough to say, were you afraid of skin? I'm like, listen, I tell them, I have been asked by more American women for money than I ever have any foreign woman for money. So, we have more scammers in our own backyard as far as our woman goes than what there is overseas in a country like the Philippines. And that's just the honest truth. Some people don't like to hear that, but it's the truth. There's more scammers in our own backyard than there is over there. But people just don't like to hear that, But it's the truth. But, when I arrived in, Clark and, Angeles City, one thing I really liked at the airport in Clark, and, they are extending that airport too. They're having a second terminal. I liked how they had the 7-Eleven on the airport grounds, so you could kind of load up on a few extra packs of cigarettes and a few other things before leaving the country too. Yeah. Well, Rico, the problem with American women, and they've been radicalized, okay? The problem is they just cannot find, it's hard to find decent American women that have not been freaking radicalized by feminism and all this other bull crap. And women over there are so much, tamer. I'm not sure how old you are, Rico, but I'll tell you this much, if you want a good, any of you want a good Filipino woman, my girlfriend definitely has a few friends. I'm not sure how old you are, Rico, or if you're looking for anybody, but my girlfriend has a few people that I got to know that she definitely hook you up with. I mean, and it's just, our women have been radicalized so much, and people have been so radicalized by feminism, the way, the pecking order of how things, you go in that part of the road, girls are still going to work there, but they still are, Rico, maybe I'll see if I can find you on Facebook after this chat here. Hey, you're 35. You're definitely a good age to meet some of them nice Filipinos that I know, the ones I know that are real. That, hey, if you're more than welcome. If you ever want to fly over there with me, I'll be flying out of New York probably later this year for Christmas to going over there for probably a few weeks. And but getting back to, our women have just been so radicalized here. Some of us just don't like to admit that our women just are not worth a damn. If you guys want to watch a good video after you watch this live stream, type in American vet tells the truth about living in the Philippines. It's about a 15-minute video. You type in American vet, tell the truth about living in the Philippines. And much of what he said I found there is true, you know. But the best thing is maybe a dating website may not always be the best site to go, but just go there and travel there. You know, be part of the people, you know, mingle with the people there. You'll encounter some girls there, I mean, that are good girls and because like for example, like my girlfriend, you know, she has plenty of friends and that are single. I mean, if you don't mind some that have a kid, you know, you know, there's about 3 that I know of right now that have kids that have, yeah, some that are totally single. So you know, they're definitely out there. But the thing I tell you though, and I'm gonna tell you this, don't go there thinking they are like our freaking crazy ass woman here. You gotta understand, they want marriage, they want to have a family. Some of the things that just these American broads just are not willing to give, and you know, they want to love you, they want to show you they're trustworthy. There's always a risk of getting scammed, but that's from anywhere. But they're not looking to take you like they think they are. Like I said, my girlfriend, she wants me to save money, even though I've sent her money before. She's never asked me for it, but I sent her money when I know she's got a need. When I know she has a need, like the last couple months, like since she's left, like she's been trying to get work in the city of, you know, Davao. In the city of Davao, for example. She's had a little bit of trouble getting work. She hasn't asked me for any help. And you know what? I wouldn't be upset if she did, because she's a great girl and we have a great relationship. But I know that she needed money for rent and money for food. So I sent her a little bit of money so I knew that she could, you know, pay her rent and have food so she can try and get settled down there and find work, you know, before she comes home. And you know what? It's not a problem. I have no problem with that at all. But yeah, you got to understand, you know, you know, if you want a traditional woman in a good country, you know, there's many wonderful ladies, you know, and one thing I'd say, Rico, I can tell you're definitely either Hispanic or you're Italian, you know, with the Spanish ancestry of the Philippines, and you're probably Catholic too, you know, like most of them are. I mean, that's actually a match made in heaven for you, brother. I mean, because you know, with the Spanish origins of the country and you being Italian, yeah, I mean, so you're actually a very good candidate for a nice young lady there. That's actually very attractive there. I mean, you're 35. You definitely get a nice one in the probably about, you know, in the 25-year-old range, maybe late 20s too. You know, I mean, but again, you know, people got to understand. You know, don't go there thinking their women are just like our woman, because they're not. They're so much more ladylike and just they honestly want to take care of you and please you. Something that our broads just don't know how to do anymore. And again, you know, I encourage everybody, watch that video, you know, American Vet tells the truth about, you know, living in the Philippines. He tells the truth about living in the Philippines. I think you guys will really enjoy that video. And as I said, much of what he said is true. As far as my favorite moment of the trip, and definitely, guys, please share that video of the Filipino man eating that live lizard. I want that video to go viral. And share the videos of them, you know, wrestling with the pigs and the livestock. Share the couple of my boat riding videos too. Just get those videos going viral soon. But, you know, the trip, you know, the part where I was at where the man ate the live lizard, that was in T-Bonbon and, you know, Governor Generoso. Miraculously, my girlfriend actually did not go with me on that trip. She should have, but there really wasn't much room in the car, but we could have, I guess, fit her in one way or another. But it was, the vehicle already had about 8 or 9 people in it. They definitely pack you in like sardines. Like the way they kind of live is kind of like how a lot of the Mexicans live, from the standpoint of they have many people living in house, like they do, in Mexico or Mexicans, but their countries, the Philippines, is a much safer country than than uh, than Mexico is. Of course, their crime's a lot lower. But yeah, I definitely loved the area of Governor Generoso. That was a trip that I had really enjoyed. I loved, being able to wake up and only, having about a 200-yard walk to the beach. Every day the beach was like almost right at your door from right there. And those 3 days there, seeing my friend Alfredo get to play with a king cobra, that's something I never got to see one of those before. They are native in that part of the world. You could find them up in the mountains there. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. I definitely getting to have the, what they call the, lechon baboy. Lechon is actually a French word for pig. Lechon. And definitely getting to have a pig roast there. Definitely had some duck there. The ducks they have, though, there's those Pekin, those white ducks. I tell you, they are so good. If you go there, ask for some duck. You can pay. You can buy a duck for about $5 US. But you know what? If you go there, buy at least 2 ducks. Share it with the family that you're going with there. I mean, it's definitely worthwhile. Because as I said, you could go there and feed yourself and the family you're staying with at a cheap price in US dollars. And but as in addition to what do they eat a lot besides rice? They eat a lot of fish. Pork. Too rice. They have a good amount of fresh. Rico, I don't know when I'm going to bring her back to the States yet. Probably, hopefully, in the next year or so, or year and a half. I got to go through the legal channels. That is not going to be an easy process. Because you got to, in addition to the few $1,000s you got to pay, you got to admit to being legally responsible. Then whether or not they'll even approve the application, they can always fuck with us and find a way to say, well, you can't bring him here. But even though we are allowed to bring him here, but yeah, I was happy there, and I definitely have fond memories, talking about it or not. And I honestly just cannot wait to go back, because I was overjoyed when I was there, and I was very sad to leave there. But yeah, but when I got to the airport in South, I was talking about the food there. Yeah, in addition to all the regular stuff like coconuts, mango, pineapple, bananas, sugarcane, rice are the main things you grow there. But yeah, so, you definitely, for at breakfast in the morning, I always had oatmeal and a banana. Their bananas, you get the bananas there anywhere on the islands there. And, get locally fresh, grown fruit. The one fruit there I don't think they had there was apples, because I think apples do better in a northern climate. I don't know if they had that many, if they had any oranges there or not. I don't know. Oranges are more in a place like Florida, but I don't know if they had any oranges in the Philippines or not. But when I was getting back, I'm gonna probably wrap it up on this in a little bit. So if you guys got any more questions or comments, be sure you get it in. But when I left the Philippines, I had arrived at the airport in South Korea about 6:45 in the morning on February 19th, which I was 6:45 in the morning. And when now South Korea is 14 hours ahead of the U.S. Standard Time. And I had about a 3-hour layover there, which is pretty good. I was able to, upload some videos on the Wi-Fi. I like at the airport in South Korea, they have smoking lounges in there. You could smoke in several of the, lounges there. The airport in South Korea is really what they call very, very ornate, because they're very ornate. For example, they have, all kinds of restaurants there. You could smoke and drink inside the airport. They got a casino on the airport. They got a golf course there. They're actually building a third terminal onto the airport in South Korea, which is in Seoul. Which, well, it's actually west of Seoul. It's called, Incheon, and it's actually considered one of the nicest airports in the world. International flights. A couple people were recommended to me if I have to have a connected flight to go to the Philippines or going from there, to definitely fly into Seoul and not fly into China, or that Seoul is a really good place to make a connected flight to the Philippines or most places over in Asia. But so when I had left Asia officially from Incheon, it was about, let's see, it would have been about, trying to think. Actually, it would have been about 8 o'clock in the eve. It would have been about 9 p.m. or so in the U.S. time it would have been about 9 p.m. in the U.S. time on that Monday. I don't know. I'm trying. My brain's getting scrambled talking about the time differences, but they're 14 hours ahead of us, so it would have been about 8 o'clock it would have been about 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. on Monday evening still, because I had arrived back in the U.S. about 1 o'clock back at the airport in, JFK, at JFK over in, Incheon, from the, Asiana Airlines flight. That's definitely a very good airline to take over there. You could fly Asiana out of LA, I know, Seattle and New York to Seoul, Incheon, and then back to the Philippines. You could either fly into Manila, Clark, or Cebu. I'll probably fly into Cebu or Clark when I return. When I return back to Davao, I'm probably gonna do Cebu. I mean, the airport in Clark was fine. A few people were telling me that if you value your baggage, don't fly into Manila. They were saying to use Cebu or Clark if you value your baggage and your belongings. But when I had arrived back in New York, it was about 1 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. I would have stayed in New York for a couple of days and wandered around there. That was my first time over there. What is the exchange rate? Well, that was my first time going to Rico. What is the exchange rate? Well, I'll give you guys an example. I don't know how. I'm not very good at describing this, but like the minimum wage here is about $10 a day. Okay, about $10 an hour in most parts of the U.S. And then in the Philippines, you work an 8-hour shift here, you make almost $70-80 a day. In the Philippines, they get paid a daily wage, and it's most of the time no more than $10 at most. So, our money is worth a lot more over there than our money is worth a lot more over there, than it is, back in the U.S., because our dollar goes farther there. If foreign dollars go farther in a place like that, but when I got back to New York, I would have, Rico, that's why a lot of people are going over to places like why some people are going to places like the Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand to retire, because your money goes farther there. And because you could bring your Social Security or military check or your pension and live outside the country, as long as you're not living in a place like Vietnam or North Korea or Cuba. They cannot stop you for that. Well, you need more than $100, but you could $700 or $800 a month over there. You could live just fine off of that over there. But you're allowed to keep your money. Now, you can't keep like if you're on like partial disability SSI, you can only keep that for so long outside the country. If you're on full disability, you can keep that. Because I actually did some research on that. Yeah, you can keep like SSDI over there, regular Social Security, and your pension or your military, retirement. But getting back to when I was getting back into New York, the flight coming back home was much rougher than it was, going there, obviously, and because coming back east was definitely much rougher than going there. Because I've read it's harder to fly back east, especially if you're going from, and you're crossing multiple time zones from, warm, hot, tropical back to cold weather like I was. And it was kind of fitting when I was at the airport in South Korea to see snow at the airport after being in the Philippines in the tropics, evading the cold weather, like I did for about 6 weeks. So it was kind of fitted for the snow to, welcome me back. But I would love to have stayed in New York for a couple of days, but I was just almost out of money by the time I only had, after I bought my Greyhound ticket to go back home, I only had like $30 to my name, so just enough money to get, food and that. And obviously New York's not the type of place to be hanging out in if you don't have much money, and I really wasn't prepared to be a beggar on the streets of New York with not having a place to stay there and having very little money. If it was in the summertime, I would have probably tried to hang out there for a couple days, but I was just tired and just extremely jet lagged. But getting back to the jet lag, it's like going to the Philippines, I had no issues with the jet lag at all because I had arrived there about 7 o'clock in the morning. I really didn't sleep much on the flight over there, but I was able to quickly adjust to the time change there. I had no issues with the jet lag, going there. So that part was pretty easy. And, but yeah, I mean, because obviously going from cold to warm, hot, tropical, it's much easier for your body to adjust than it is doing the actual, reverse of that. I mean, and the thing that does make it worse, if you are going to a warm, hot, tropical, if you try and make sure you eat as you're coming back, otherwise the jet lag is going to be much worse. Because I had a couple meals on the plane, but I really didn't eat that much on the way back home because I was trying to save money. When I had arrived back home, it was about 10 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. It was on the 20th because I had left New York about 4 o'clock on the Greyhound. Again, I only stayed for a few hours. I just stayed long enough to catch the Long Island Railroad back to Manhattan. Then I was looking for a Greyhound out of there because although I wanted to stay for a couple of days, the conditions just were not ideal for me to be hanging around, New York and having very little money and only just enough money to get back, home. So yeah, if I would have had maybe another $1,000 in my pocket, yeah, I would have probably stayed in New York for 2 or 3 days. I would have grabbed a hotel and hung out there. I definitely would love to have seen the World Trade Center, observatory. But yeah, but when I got back home, as you guys seen those last few videos, that it was actually snowing here when I had got back. It was snowing in eastern Ohio. I was glad it didn't start snowing until later on because there was some bad weather coming and I was actually kind of worried about the weather, coming back on the bus. But thankfully the snow, it managed to hold off until we got back in Ohio. The The trip on the Greyhound was about 18 hours total. And that included some stopping in, you know, we stopped in several towns. I mean, most of the places, especially the ones in New Jersey, you got to be careful. And I didn't venture anywhere. I just stayed close to the bus because I know Camden and Newark are not the safest places. Don't have very good reputations. So yeah, I just kind of stayed to myself on the most of the trip because I know Greyhound doesn't have the best reputation. I honestly was going to take Amtrak back home. I wanted to try that, but I didn't want to wait around 16 more hours, and I was already jet lagged, and I just wanted to get out of there. And otherwise, I would have just taken Amtrak back to Cincinnati. Then I would have just busted the rest of the way because I wanted to experience Amtrak, but it just... But anyway, I'm going to get ready to wrap it up on this one, guys. It's been about an hour and, 40 minutes. I mean, it's just, I really had the time of my life in the Philippines. I definitely learned a lot about, who I was as a person on the trip. I'm more grateful to, experience, living life in a different part of the world, experience in a new culture. It honestly made me a better person, but I don't take anything, for granted. Not that I ever really have, but it definitely awakens you, living life. Thanks, Rico. Hey, maybe I'll send you a message or something, or feel free to send me a message on here, or maybe I'll find you on Facebook. Hey, Rico, what state do you live in? That'll make me easier to find you on Facebook if you're interested in meeting a nice Filipino. That way I can make it easier for me to search for you. What state are you in? But yeah, I definitely enjoyed my time I definitely loved my time in the Philippines. Oh, you're in Dayton, Ohio. Holy shit. What? You know what? I'm trying not to talk about Dayton. I'm on this. I'm not going to talk about Dayton, so I'm not going to ask you what part of Dayton you live in, because I want to keep this video mainly about my trip to the Philippines and vice versa. But yeah, I really have enjoyed, the time that I had, spent there. And it's, yeah, Dan, one thing that helped is, one thing that I had, enjoyed, well, one thing that's helped me able to keep this live stream is, I don't know if you guys can tell where I'm at. I'm not going to really identify it. If you guys don't know, you guys probably... But I've had pretty good Wi-Fi where I'm at. Don't know what crazy stalkers are tuning in on this freaking live stream. But yeah, I mean, it's... But yeah, it's definitely, having a good internet connection here has definitely helped me keep this live stream smooth and steady. But yeah, I'll be making a return trip back to the Philippines. Now, Rico, I'm going to tell you this much. When I go back to the Philippines, I'm probably going to fly out of Cincinnati to New York. Again, back over there, probably to Seoul. That's the best route to do. I'd like the Philippine Airlines flight, but I would rather bypass Manila. I mean, I don't dislike Manila, but the stuff I've heard, it's better to fly into a different airport, arrive in there. But, thank you guys for joining. Be sure you, watch the video of the guy, American Vet Tells the Truth About Living in the Philippines. Google, and also share my video about the guy, eating the live lizard in the Philippines. Filipino man in the Philippines eats a live lizard. But I'm going to get ready to wrap it up on this one, guys. It's been long enough, and And if there's anything I didn't address in this video that you guys want me to talk about, you know, leave a comment and maybe I'll readdress it in another, you know, video about this. I might make another part of this. Ha, try lizard someday. Ha ha, maybe. I don't know if I'm that crazy yet. There's a couple people I know who said they'd eat a lizard, but I don't know if I'm crazy enough to eat a live lizard. But I don't know if I'm crazy enough to eat a live lizard. But I'm going to wrap it up on this one, guys. All right, everybody have a good night here. And I will be back with more content. And as I uploaded another video today.